Diamonds to Pebbles. Chapter 10. The entire Hamilton royal family, along with Evelyn and Jade, were summoned to Baldwin for a hearing about the incident. Accompanying them on their ship was King Nuno's body, which they had placed inside a coffin crafted by the best woodcarvers in the land. When they had nearly reached the island that provided humans access to the underwater kingdom, Evelyn heard her name. She ran over to the ship's railing and peered down. Artis and Jade both stood next to her, spotting Prince Halcyon down below. His long, wet hair clung to his forehead, and his bright orange tail flipped in the water, keeping his head above the waves. Despite his damp face, they could tell tears streaked his cheeks. Evelyn wasted no time as she jumped overboard, screaming out her brother's name. For the first time, Artis witnessed her transformation into a mermaid. Her tail was as golden as her hair, and he watched with Jade as the siblings hugged. After their reunion, Halcyon's eyes flashed up to Artis. "What happened to my father?" Artis noted there was anger in the prince's voice, but it was not directed at him. "We'll explain everything in Baldwin. Your father's counselors are attending, I presume?" Halcyon scoffed. They left in a hurry as soon as they heard the news. "They know the High King of Baldwin isn't a man to be easily manipulated, unlike my father. I'll take my sister from here." Artis nodded, but he felt an ache in his chest at the idea of letting Evelyn out of his sight. She felt the same and took a glance at him before submerging herself into the water. Jade patted Artis's arm. "Don't fret. You'll see her in less than 10 minutes. "I'm aware," he sighed, turning back to his family, who were all preparing to enter the docks. The hearing was hardly a hearing at all, but rather a meeting with all concerned parties, including the higher-ups from Baldwin, Avani, and Terranil, the wise man of old, Artis and his family, Halcyon and Evelyn, and Jade, who served as an additional witness. Those not directly involved in the incident listened attentively as each individual shared their account of the events. With everyone attesting to Nuno's intent to marry Evelyn, there was little room for debate. However, when the dark shadow that emerged from Nuno was mentioned, the wise man of old bristled in his chair. "I have been warned of such a foe. It sounds like we are battling darkness itself." Eyes and whispers drifted across the large table. Darkness? The name echoed throughout the spacious room. Nothing could be more paralyzing than that name. It is not just a word referring to the lack of light. Darkness was a being. And will this darkness affect others? Baldwin's king asked. The wise man of old nodded sternly and looked toward Snow and Nathaniel. "I'm afraid it already has." Nathaniel squeezed his wife's hand as he realized what that meant. His mother had also let darkness consume her. She was only spared because her memories were wiped clean. Nuno had not been so lucky. The wise man of old continued, "However, the Creator has informed me that 3 heroes will aid us from a different world. She requests that they inherit the thrones of Terranil, Avani, and Baldwin." Without hesitation, all of the high rulers stood. The king of Terranil said, "Consider it done. We will support them and guide them if they have the Creator's favor." "When will they arrive?" The wise man of old made no change in expression as he said, "Whenever darkness makes its next move." Halcyon was named King of Dorian, though his kingdom would be forever tarnished by his father's insanity. Thankfully, most outsiders would attribute the kingdom's labeled lunacy to its overprotective nature towards sea creatures, rather than to the actions of King Nuno. King Halcyon gratefully blessed Artis and Evelyn's engagement, which was pronounced across the land. The 2 young kings heavily relied upon one another and swore their lands would combat darkness at all costs. When Artis and Evelyn were wed months later, there was a grand celebration. And once that ended, the 2 lovers could finally breathe. Evelyn, dressed in white with her mother's mermaid jewel around her neck and the golden ring upon her finger, wandered the shores that connected Hamilton to the ocean. Artis trailed behind her, studying her figure in the moonlight. He smiled because he saw her as she once was before all the chaos entered her life, a girl who was greatly cherished. It was the first time he met the real Evelyn. "There you are," he whispered. Evelyn turned while her hair, close to her shoulders now, flew across her face. She hurriedly drew the strands behind her ear to avoid them sticking to her glossy lips. "What was that?" Artis tilted his head, hands in pockets, and his smile ever growing. "Nothing. I'm just a man in love, is all." "I think you're a bit more than that, Your Majesty," Evelyn teased with a curtsy. He shook his head, slowly getting closer to her. "No, no, Evelyn. No more of that. Never again do I want you to call me that." She outstretched her hand and said the sweetest word he used to think little of. "Artis." He bypassed her hand and embraced her instead, kissing her lips and then whispering, "Evelyn." And so, dear reader, it is through pure love that we protect ourselves from darkness, which is why we so often crave a tale ending with true love's kiss.